The Toronto Raptors have been silently building something special since their championship run in 2019. And while many teams who lose a top 5 player in the NBA usually enter a tanking phase and are forced to enter a rebuild, the Raptors have managed to stay pretty competitive. They spent a few seasons retooling and developing their young talent and making smart draft picks whenever they came up. And now they've added Scottie Barnes alongside their already loaded war chest of young talent. Scottie Barnes is a very unique player, and he's a really good example of the trend the NBA has been following in recent years. His game provides us some insight into what the NBA could look like years from now. I'm going to cover what exactly makes Scottie Barnes so unique and why he's only just scratching the surface of what I think he's going to be capable of as he progresses as a player. As always, if you enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe and leave a like. We're almost to 10,000 subscribers. Let's get right into it. Now, Barnes has been locked in the top 3 in the Rookie of the Year race throughout the entire season so far, and for good reason. He's been, by far, one of the most impressive rookies in the entire NBA. One of the best things that a player can do for themselves as a rookie to stand out and have a major impact is by providing value in more than one area of the game. Some rookies come in and they're just scorers, some rookies come in and they only provide playmaking, some may only provide defense. But with Scottie Barnes, he's shown that he can do a little bit of everything. He's very much one of those Swiss Army knife types of players. He's a guy that contributes in whatever role he finds himself playing on any given night. His recent big game where we saw him go off for 28 points in a career high night against the Nets is really interesting because he racked up a lot of those points through primarily just effort plays and without plays being drawn up for him. The buckets he was getting were mostly just coming from things like putbacks, second chance opportunities, making smart cuts for passers to find him in stride. It wasn't particularly complicated stuff. Barnes may not be the greatest shooter or shot creator right now, but what he has at his disposal that gives him a competitive advantage is his smarts. He's able to score right now without having to have the ball in his hands and while currently having a fairly limited offensive arsenal. Shooting and ball handling is something that can be learned. He can develop these skills over time as he continues to grow as a player and as he gains more and more experience. It's a lot more difficult to teach a player how to play smart. The fact that Barnes is already so good at it bodes really well for his long-term development. I also don't want to pretend like he hasn't shown some really impressive skill. He has great post footwork for a 20-year-old. He's got a really nice soft touch, and he doesn't rely a ton on brute strength and athleticism to get to the basket. He does a really good job of switching to his offhand on layups when the defender is contesting. He has a nice baby hook, and there have been instances where we've seen flashes of a developing post and mid-range shot. And as far as that jump shot goes, while it does have a ways to go, there are some really promising pieces of evidence that point to him being a serviceable shooter at the bare minimum. He's actually been one of the best mid-range shooters amongst rookies this year, being the 3rd most efficient in the mid-range while also attempting over 2 mid-range shots per game. This aspect of his game really intrigues me because if he develops into a reliable mid-range scorer, that's one of the first steps towards him becoming a ridiculously potent offensive weapon. But like I mentioned earlier, those effort plays are what sets him apart from the crowd. Even though there are other rookies that might be better shot creators and overall shooters right now, there's no rookie that's been as good as him when it comes to effort plays and converting those effort plays into baskets. He's the only rookie that ranks top 5 in the categories that I consider to be effort scoring categories. These second chance opportunities wouldn't be possible without his insanely good offensive rebounding ability. He actually leads all rookies in offensive rebounds per game this season. He's just so lengthy and he has such a high motor that it's legitimately just difficult to stop him from getting an offensive rebound when he has the ball in his sights. This directly impacts the Raptors' ability to win basketball games for the simple fact that the more offensive rebounds you get, the more possessions your team is going to have, which means more scoring opportunities. There's a reason the Raptors get the 2nd most offensive rebounds per game, and it's because of guys like Scottie Barnes. This all results in a solid baseline for a player to contribute at a high level to a winning team, but it doesn't even stop there because I haven't even gotten into the really exciting flashes of playmaking that we've seen from him this season. One comparison that Scottie Barnes drew frequently is a comparison to Draymond Green. This arose from the playmaking Barnes exhibited throughout college, and while it isn't something we've been able to see on full display just yet, simply because it's not been a major part of his role, the stuff that we have seen gives a lot of reasons to be excited about how he fits into an offense moving forward. He's averaging the 4th most assists amongst rookies this season, while simultaneously averaging the 2nd fewest turnovers among the top 5 in assists. He has a ton of playmaking potential for a forward, and this offensive versatility is something that's going to be really exciting to watch develop. He's a really gifted passer. The fact that the Raptors can run their offense through a guy of his size is really unusual, and it creates a ton of opportunities for them in terms of hunting mismatches. Both him and Pascal Siakam are really gifted passing forwards, and for Toronto to have 2 of them at their disposal is intriguing in its own right. Barnes is good at finding cutters in transition opportunities, he can initiate dribble handoffs, he can kick out to cutters. There's really not much that we haven't seen from him yet in terms of what he's capable of as a passer. While his ball handling ability isn't necessarily conducive to pure shot creation, he's more than good enough to operate as a point forward and facilitate the offense. He's not exactly risky in what he chooses to do with the ball in his hands. More often than not, he's just simply making smart passes to the guy with the highest percentage shot. This great feel can be seen here. He brings the ball up the floor, and when he drives, he's smart enough to ignore the potential layup or even try and dump it off to the paint, and instead he opts to kick it out to the wide open shooter in the corner. And that transition passing ability is on display here, where once again he's bringing the ball up and he just slings it to Boucher near the basket, and it results in an easy 2 points. I've talked a bit about it before, but having a guy who not only can snag you a ton of rebounds, he doesn't immediately have to give it up to a guard when initiating transition offense. He's good enough that he can just bring the ball up the floor himself and operate as your point man on any given possession. It pushes the pace of your offense, and it forces the defense to scramble to try and get set defensively. And while his defense isn't even close to what I think he'll eventually become, he's a very good team defender at the moment, and he has a good understanding of when he needs to provide help and provide a double team or come off of his man to contest a shot. But his physical tools and feel for the game make me confident that he's going to develop into a really solid all-around defender, but that's just something that's going to take time because it comes with experience. So what does all of this mean for the Raptors? What are they realistically working with in Scottie Barnes? I truly do think that this kid has star potential. We don't see guys with his physical tools and skill set very often, and he's arguably in the best organization in the entire NBA when it comes to player development. So I have the utmost confidence that the sky is truly the limit for him. When you take into consideration the fact that the Raptors are working with Fred VanVleet, who was an all-star, Gary Trent Jr., a guy who looks like he could develop into one of the most lethal shooters in the entire league, OG Anunoby, who is one of the best 3-and-D wings in the NBA, Pascal Siakam, a guy who should have been an all-star and deserves some all-NBA recognition this year, and now Scottie Barnes. That's arguably the most talented starting 5 in the entire NBA moving forward. The amount of talent that this team is working with is off the charts, and 𝙖𝙗𝙤𝙪's plan to usher in a new era of highly skilled and lengthy lineups is looking like a trend that is going to continue around the NBA as the Raptors prove the success of this strategy. So do you think that Scottie Barnes is a future all-star? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. As always, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and leave a like on the video, because that's the #1 way to help me out with the YouTube algorithm and get this video recommended to more people. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.